On this episode, we take this Songkran opportunity to discuss the dangers of riding a motorbike in Thailand.
So, if you've ever ridden a motorbike in Thailand without reading the small print on your insurance policy, you'll love this episode of the Bangkok podcast.
Sawadee krap, and welcome to the Bangkok podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who came to Bangkok in 2001 because New Orleans is sinking, man, and I don't want to swim.
That sounds like a lyric that I don't know.
Yeah, that's a pretty deep Canadian, a deep-cut Canadian fact for my hoser friends out there.
And what is it? Are you going to explain it?
No.
Okay. It's only for the Canadians out there. All right.
That's right. Just like a secret little wink.
Okay. And I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract 22 years ago. Fell in love with the contrast between Thai family names, which tend to have like 6 syllables or more, and Thai nicknames, which tend to have 1.
It's a good one. Hi, my name is Somchai, blah, 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 blah. But you can call me...
Yeah, you can call me Ting. It's so funny. I just get a huge kick out of it. Like, the Thai names are so long, and then it's like, oh, or you can call me Pong.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, who would choose to use the longer version?
There's no... It's either or, right? There's
That's
no
right.
middle, like medium-sized name.
That's right, yeah. Okay, we want to give a big thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get every episode a day early, behind-the-scenes photos of our interviews, a heads up to send questions to upcoming guests, and access to our Discord server to chat with me, Craig, and other listeners around the world. But best of all, patrons also get an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we riff on current events and Bangkok topics. On this week's bonus show, we chatted about the difficulties that come with being an expat when a family member back home gets sick, 2 embarrassing stories that Greg and I have about filming ourselves trying to get fit and look cool on camera, and a double dose of news of the weird, including a drunken cable sleeper and a delicious, allegedly, condom.
Apparently.
Yeah. To learn how to become a patron, click the support button at the top of our website.
Right. And as always, if you have a comment, a show idea, or just want to say hi, head to bangkokpodcast.com and click the little microphone button on the bottom right to leave us a voicemail that we'll play on the show.
Heck yep.
All right. So on this episode, which drops the day before the magical Songkran holiday of 2023, we're going to use this show as an opportunity to let our listeners know and implore them to tell their friends, we're talking to you, my friend, about the risks of riding motorbikes in Thailand. Now, as most people know, Songkran is often the deadliest holiday in Thailand when it comes to road accidents, and we wanted to use this occasion as sort of a public service announcement to highlight the dangers of Thailand's roads. Believe it or not, Thailand is among the most dangerous countries on the planet when it comes to road fatalities, but it is also known for many young travelers getting into an accident here while riding a motorcycle and then finding themselves trapped in a hospital bed while their family desperately tries to raise enough money to get them back home to proper care because their insurance company will not pay. So Ed, this is something that came up because we've seen yet another story the other day of this happening in Thailand. It seems they're coming with more regularity these days. What's your take on this? What's your overview of this?
Man, this is such a painful situation. I really wanted to do this show. And I know most of the stuff we have mentioned before, but, I'm not going to apologize in this case for being repetitious because I do really think of this show as a public service announcement to all of our listeners and also to, like you said, encourage our listeners to tell their friends, tell their family members before they come to Thailand how dangerous motorbikes are. Well, first, of course, how dangerous the roads are. Second, how dangerous the motorbikes are. And also the importance of knowing that you have proper traveler's insurance and health insurance that would actually cover motorbike accidents. Because these stories are just heartbreaking. There's just the general fact of someone getting injured. That's depressing.
Yeah.
Then there's the fact that their health insurance doesn't cover it, which is even more depressing.
And infuriating.
You're right. Then the fact that they're thousands of miles away from their families, so they don't have the support of family and friends. That is horrifying. But to me, like the added even twist is that they come to Thailand expecting to have fun and the time of their lives, and it ends up being a nightmare. It's that contrast. That's like the final straw that makes this so depressing. So I'm gonna lay it out. I'm just gonna kind of structure it for listeners, and I'm gonna kind of pretend maybe that you don't know anything about coming to Thailand, and maybe you're a newbie and you're thinking about a first visit. And the first thing to point out is just that Thailand roads in general are very dangerous compared to probably wherever you're coming from. Now, they do have various rankings based on number of accidents and number of injuries and deaths, but the rankings I don't think are that important. I mean, I think for a while Thailand was the second most dangerous roads in the world, and now we've actually gone down a little bit. We're not quite as highly ranked, but the bottom line is the difference between the countries is often like relatively small. So whether we're like 10th or 2nd doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we dropped 8 spots. That means 12 fewer deaths this month, you know?
Yeah, so the first thing, like the first lesson to realize for anyone coming to Thailand is the roads are more dangerous. And, you know, we can speculate as to why. Part of it is, you know, that a lot of the traffic laws are not enforced. So when Thai people get on roads, they just act kind of crazy. And like, you know, you and I have talked about it before, you know, Thai culture is famously indirect in person, face to face, but when behind a wheel or on a motorbike, Thai people can be very aggressive.
Yeah, right. And I think a big part of this as well is because we've mentioned this before about how when you travel to Thailand, I guess it's not only in Thailand, when you travel to anywhere, it's you sort of have carte blanche for 10 days or 2 weeks or however long you're on vacation. Like you're freestyling. The rules don't apply. I don't have to be who I am at home, and I can try new things and do new things and have fun, and that's part of the adventure, you know. But a lot of people when they travel, and especially when they come to Thailand, especially young people, they try to be something or try to do something that they normally would never have any business doing. You know, like a lot of people come to Thailand and they're like, oh, like gems. Cheap gems, like suddenly I'm a gem expert or something like that. So a lot of people probably have only ridden a motorbike very briefly or on the family farm or have never ridden one, and then they come to some random shop in some random town in Thailand and suddenly they're on the road flying on a motorcycle at 120 kilometers.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly part of it. I think people tend to take risks or they tend to relax when they're on a holiday and they lose some of their common sense. Yeah. But I want to kind of walk through the different layers of this. So the first layer is just people should know before they come to town that the streets are much more dangerous, and you should just generally be a lot more careful when you're crossing the street than you would have to be back home. And you can't assume that people on the road are going to obey the traffic laws. You just cannot assume that. So just because you're in a crosswalk does not mean that you're safe. You know, so I would say that's kind of level 1. But level 2 awareness is the particular danger of motorbikes. Not, you know, motorcycles do exist here, but it's mostly smaller motorbikes, or at least in Ohio, we used to call them mopeds, smaller things. And, you know, you and I have talked a lot about motorbike riders. They play a key part in Thai society and the Thai economy. The traffic is so bad that sometimes like the only way to messengers can make deliveries is because of motorbikes can go in between lanes. Sure. Motorbikes play like it's just a key role in the Thai economy. But all that being said, motorbikes are extremely dangerous. So they are dangerous for you if you're a pedestrian, because motorbike riders, they don't follow the traffic laws, and they can ride on sidewalks. They can ride in between lanes. I've talked before on the podcast. In my first month in Thailand, I opened up my taxi door into a lane and hit an oncoming motorbike guy in between lanes. And that happened twice in my first 2 months of being here.
Twice?
And it scared the daylights out of me. And actually, both times I was actually on the curb lane. To be precise, the taxi hadn't like pulled over literally on the curb. There was space, but I was stopped in traffic and, you know, paid my bill, but I didn't look before I opened the taxi door. And 2 motorbikes. And so I learned my lesson. So now I always look behind me before I open up a taxi door.
That must be sort of like one of these moments for every taxi driver when there's some foreigner in the back seat, right? When I'll get out here, he's like, ooh.
Yeah, no. Taxi drivers they yell at you like if you don't look, or because they know a motorbike guy might be coming. So that's the next thing to be aware. It's like, motorbikes are not just dangerous if you're on them. Like they can be dangerous to you if you're a pedestrian or if you're getting in and out of a vehicle. So if you're anywhere on the road, like typically it would be a taxi, like you definitely have to look behind you before you open up a taxi door, because those motorbike guys, they go in between the lanes. So just because you are stopped, like normally I think in the West, if you're stuck in traffic, you think everyone is stuck, so you're not too worried about opening up your door.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
But here, like motorbike guys can go in between the lanes. And then the next layer is if you're actually getting on a motorbike yourself. And of course, this can happen in two ways. Commonly, you get on the back of a motorbike with a motorbike driver, or the last level, like level 4 risk, is if you're actually riding the motorbike yourself. And, to be honest, getting on the back of a motorbike, it might not be as dangerous as it seems, but the simple truth is you're still on a motorbike. You're not in a car where you have metal around you that can protect you.
Yes.
I did look up some statistics, and, the numbers don't matter all that much, but I was surprised to see that motorbikes are actually involved in 80%, 80, of all traffic accidents in Thailand.
80%?
80%. So there are car versus car, but motorbikes are involved in 80%. And usually, of course, it's going to be a car and a motorbike. And you can guess, like, who comes out worse when it's car versus motorbike.
Yeah, it's a physics question at that point.
That's exactly right. And so even if you have a good, like, in some ways, I think motorbike drivers sometimes get a raw deal. And I don't think they're, in general, because they do it for a living, if they were crazy all the time, they wouldn't survive. Like it's almost a case of survival of the fittest. Like, so a lot of times they look like they're being crazy, but I don't think they're as crazy as people think. But the bottom line is they're still human beings, and people driving cars, they can make mistakes. They can change lanes without blinkers. The street is complicated, and you and I have friends who are motorcycle riders, and the bottom line is, if you're on a motorbike or motorcycle, everyone knows it's just a matter of time. You're going to be in an accident. You will. One way or the other. You're going to slide on wet pavement, or you're going to be caught in a weird situation that's like a 1 in 10,000 situation where someone's backing out of a driveway while someone else is taking a left turn, when the person in front of you is braking. You can't, like when you're just not in a vehicle, you're just by definition vulnerable, and you're going to get into an accident for sure.
Well, you brought up a really important point here, and that's also because it's you might be the safest motorbike driver in the world. You might be a professional motocross driver or something like that, but it doesn't matter if some half-drunk 14-year-old idiot is screaming through a crosswalk and you're waiting at the traffic light or something like that. So
that's exactly right.
And that's something that I always try to teach my son too. Like, he always asks questions: how come you stop so long here, or why do you go so slow here? And I'm like, well, I'm driving safely, but that doesn't mean that everyone else is driving safely.
Right.
And you add onto all this the other sort of extenuating circumstances of things like drunk driving is not as frowned upon here as it is in the West.
That's right.
People often sort of do the old, in Canada, we call them the rolling stops through stop signs and through stoplights and stuff like that if you're walking onto a crosswalk. So the roads do not work here the way that you might expect them to back home.
And both motorbike drivers and taxi drivers, they drink, like you said, way more often than would be in the West. I mean, I don't think a lot of times they're super drunk, but having 1 or 2 drinks and then riding a motorbike or taxi driver or taxi is fairly common.
Have you ever done that? Have you ever walked up to a win and like flagged a guy down and he's like, just let me slam this beer and I'll be right with you?
Sure.
It's happened to me a couple times.
No, they have whiskey there for sure. No, it happens. So I would say this, and I'm being totally honest here. My advice to anyone visiting Thailand is don't get on a motorbike. That is just the smartest thing to do. Just don't do it. It's just not worth it. And especially if you're here for a short time, you're on a holiday. It's like you want to have fun, and like getting into an accident on a motorbike, it's just the exact way to ruin your holiday. Like, can you think of a more perfect way to ruin your holiday?
No, man.
That's it. I mean, so my advice is just don't get on a motorbike. And then, the deepest level here is, which is common among, especially tourists, is renting a motorbike. Like if you're on the islands, because on the islands, motorbikes are just very common, and a lot of times the other forms of transportation there's like a taxi mafia, or they're kind of absurdly expensive. You know what I mean? So if you're like Songtaos and other modes of transportation are kind of unfairly expensive, like in Phuket and places like that, and Samui. And so when you do the math, just renting your own motorbike is just mathematically the wiser thing to do. Yeah. But as you pointed out, it's riding a motorbike takes skill. So if you don't have a motorcycle back home, like, why do you think all of a sudden, like in Thailand, you're going to be able to get on a motorbike and you're going to be good at it? Like, right. Okay, just because you can drive down the street, it doesn't mean you can react quickly or make smart decisions unless you have a motorcycle back home.
Yeah, or like I said, like you're riding down, you're like, oh, the light's red. Obviously, everyone's going to be stopped, so therefore it's safe for me to proceed. Like, that's not how it works.
Yeah, I mean, so I think I understand renting a motorbike. It is more convenient. It is. There's no doubt about it. But I just don't think it's a smart thing to do. And but if you do decide to do it, I mean, just try to be as careful as possible. Do not be carefree.
Right.
Yeah. It makes no sense. And then, of course, look, I shouldn't have to say this, but getting drunk and then getting on a motorbike late at night is a death wish. It's like you might as well just put a tattoo on your forehead, like I want to die. Like, because like that is the formula that
hit me with your bike.
That's right. That's the formula that leads to so many of these horrible accidents. It's someone on a holiday who rented a bike, they take it out to a bar, they drink all night, and then at 2 a.m. they get back on the bike and they're going back to their hotel or right. wherever, and now they're drunk. They're not really good on a motorbike. It's dark out, and then boom, they could be crippled for life. Like I know it's no fun to talk about, but I mean that's kind of the purpose of the show. I kind of want to scare people.
Scared straight. Now, the other sort of big sticking point here is what happens with insurance, because a lot of people come over here, rent a motorcycle. When you rent a motorcycle in Thailand, you often don't need much more than your passport. Just give it to the guy.
That's right. Sure.
Just photocopy. Sometimes they keep the passport. And even if you think, like, if you're incredibly optimistic and you're like, oh, I'll just get in motorcycle accidents, even if something happens, I'll just head to the hospital, they'll patch me up. A lot of times, and this is what gave us the idea for the show, is just that these stories come out over and over and over again all the time, is you get to the hospital, they fix you up, and you say, here's my insurance. And they say, okay, oh, hang on, what's this small writing down here? This doesn't apply if you're driving a motorcycle illegally, which includes not using a helmet.
That's right.
Or not having the proper local license. So if you have a car license back home and you're not specifically licensed to ride a motorcycle, the insurance company does not have to pay anything for an accident.
That's right. There are so many levels to this. And as our listeners know, I am actually a lawyer, although I'm not an expert in this specific area. Ooh. But over the years, I've encountered so many different ways that the health insurance does not cover it. So I literally run through all the situations. Number one, some health insurance or travel insurance policies just exempt all motorbike accidents. So my very first health insurance I got in Thailand through my company, I discovered that literally just all motorbike accidents are not covered. Period. They're not covered.
Period, hey? Wow.
No injury from a motorbike accident. And when I talked to my boss about it and she made a phone call, it turns out the insurance company, if you want coverage for motorbikes, you had to pay extra, like it's a rider. But the standard policy, any accident on a motorbike is not covered. Straight up, period. Harsh. It doesn't matter if you have a license. It doesn't matter if you have a helmet on. None of that matters. It's not covered in the standard policy. You got to pay extra because motorbike accidents are so unbelievably common that sometimes they're just exempted, period. So that's number one. Number two, a lot of policies back home, and this we just were talking about a case in the news about a British guy. His British, I assume maybe it's the National Health Service in Britain. Mm-hmm. They won't cover his accident in Thailand because he wasn't wearing a helmet, like as you pointed out. So right. that's an exemption. So you have some horrible injury, like a head injury, brain injury. You might need to be flown back home. And the bottom line is your health insurance won't do it if you didn't have your helmet on or if they don't have evidence you had your helmet on. And now, I mean, people think healthcare in Thailand is cheap, but the bottom line is for serious injuries, it adds up fast. So for serious injuries, having bills that are equivalent to $50,000 US, $100,000 US, $200,000 US. That is not unusual for a serious injury in Thailand. So again, I want to scare our listeners. Like, don't think that, oh, I'm in Thailand, like everything's cheap here. If I break my leg, it's going to cost $250. Well, maybe not. And you might not just break, and you might not just break your leg.
Exactly. Right.
It can add up. It can add up. So, I mean, and if you've got $100,000, like, in your bank account ready to cover, your spinal surgery, then, don't worry about it. But I think most people probably don't, most people don't have $100,000 sitting around. And this happens all the time. I mean, this is what Greg and I are talking about. It's in the news all the time. And these are our people. These are expats and tourists, the kind of people that you and I are trying to give good advice to. And they get in these horrible accidents. They think they have insurance coverage, and they find out it doesn't apply for some exemption, for some exception.
Well, one thing we'll link to in our show notes is a story that a very good friend of mine, my friend Carla, wrote for CNN a few years back. And this is exactly what happened to her when she came to Thailand. And she came to Thailand about the same time I did, about 20 years ago or so. And she's still here. She's doing great. I haven't seen her in a long time. Carla, if you hear this, I love you and I want to see you soon. But this exact same thing happened to her. She was here with her friend Jody, and they rented a motorcycle, and they got smoked when they were down in, I can't remember, some island in the south. And she includes some photos with this story that we'll link to, and they are brutal, man. Like, Carla's a pretty lady, but there's a couple of photos in here where her face is not in good shape.
Motorbike accidents are horrendous.
Yeah, and it says here, I'll just read a little bit from her story. It says, I had never experienced a sense of dread quite like this before. The nurses would gently scrape the pus out of our wounds with scissors and douse them in iodine before putting on fresh gauze. A painful process that had us writhing in the beds in pain and fighting back tears as the women smiled nervously in sympathy. No doubt, we weren't the first damaged backpackers they'd laid their hands on, and we certainly wouldn't be the last. Our insurance provider told us they'd cover our flights home, but not our medical bills. Foolishly, we assumed we wouldn't need full coverage and just bought the basic policy.
Right. I mean, that's it. And okay, so it could be something like that. It could be that you weren't wearing a helmet, or some policies basically say, as you pointed out, that if you don't have a motorcycle license or motorbike license, then they also won't cover you. Right. So, like, again, you might have a automobile license back home, but you don't have a motorcycle license. And then, of course, when you come to Thailand, you're not going to have a Thai motorcycle license, because the Thai automobile license does not cover motorbikes or motorcycles. That's a separate license. Exactly,
yeah. And also check, like, maybe in some countries you might have, like, license to drive a car and a motorcycle or something like that on the same thing. But, it might not apply in Thailand. I don't know how the rules work. So that's something you need to check.
Right. And shocker, even some Thai motorbike guys, especially on the islands, they might not even have the proper license.
Oh, what?
Shocking, but true. It's like when you get into a taxi and there's a picture of someone, and then you look at the driver and it's not the same guy. It's like his cousin. You know what I mean?
You hope it's his cousin. The real taxi driver isn't in the trunk.
I mean, I think most of our listeners realize that the way the insurance industry works is they only make money by not paying for stuff. Exactly. That's the only way they make money.
They'll do whatever they can to not pay you.
Yeah, and especially in an area like motorbike accidents in Thailand, where everyone knows there's a high probability these are going to happen. So that's the exact kind of thing that lawyers like me, when they write the policies, will target. In other words, because this is how these insurance companies lose money, is that they have to pay for all these accidents. And so they will find a way to make sure that they don't have to pay. So I would just say this. I mean, if you're thinking about renting a motorbike, or if you get on the back of a motorbike, I would just be quadruply sure. Is that a word? Quadruply sure?
It is now. Yeah.
I would just double, triple, and quadruple check your health insurance, your travel insurance, and make sure everything's covered. So that could include a flight back home, as well as your healthcare coverage. Otherwise, I mean, just don't get on a motorbike. I think that is the much wiser thing to do, is just don't get on the back of a motorbike and don't rent a motorbike.
Mm-hmm. I'm a little bit guilty here. I'm a little bit of a hypocrite, because I take a motorcycle every morning to the BTS and I don't wear a helmet.
Sure.
But mostly because even the helmets they do give me sometimes, they fit like a yarmulke. Like
that's right, sure.
They just put it on the top of my head like a little hat. But I'm well aware of the risk. And granted, it's just 20 seconds up a not very busy street to the BTS station, so the risk is quite low. But it's still never, ever, ever 100% safe.
Right. Well, part of it is just again, the tragedy of these cases is how most foreigners think they have coverage. Like, the bottom line is, it's your life, and you can take whatever risk you want. But, Greg and I just want you to know what risk you're taking. So again, it's your life. If you want to take the risk,
we ain't your mama.
Yeah, if you want to take the risk and have to pay out of pocket, it's your life. But a lot of people, as we keep saying, is they think they have health insurance coverage or their travel insurance, and they don't. And then it becomes a nightmare, not just for them, but for their families. It's just, these stories are heartbreaking where their families back home are starting GoFundMe campaigns, and they're trying to raise £100,000 or £200,000. I mean, you can end up bankrupting your entire family.
Right.
If you have a bad accident in Thailand. It's truly a nightmare.
Yeah, there's been a couple of times where I've been on an island or up north or something, and I thought renting a motorcycle with my son would be cool, drive around the hills, because as we've discussed on the show before, northern Thailand is some of the world's best motorcycle riding. It's just beautiful up there, and it's great. Sure. But I won't do it because I know my insurance, I don't have a motorcycle license. Right. I could rent a motorcycle, no problem, and I'd probably be fine, and I have done it before. But at this point in my life, not worth it. Not going to do it. So I got to get a motorcycle license, but who has time for that? Well, I got to make time for it. That's what the moral of the story is.
I know this is not a normal show of ours, and I don't want to be like, I don't know what the right word is. I don't want to be like
doom and gloom.
I don't want to be like paranoid or Mr. Doom and Gloom. But these are just sad stories, and these events are happening to the kinds of people who listen to our show. These are visitors to Thailand who are coming to Thailand because, of course, they want to have the time of their lives.
Or their friends and their family.
That's right. And then it turns into literally the worst experience of their life. And it is avoidable if you, number one, just don't get on a motorbike, or number two, at least make sure you do have proper insurance and make sure you're very sure that it's covered.
Yeah. What would that extra rider cost in your insurance? Like an extra $25?
That's right.
It's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. And listeners, please tell your family and friends, anyone you know who's coming to visit you, your buddies from high school or whoever's coming to visit you, please let them know about this. I'm not joking. It's heartbreaking seeing these stories.
And they come around all the time.
Oh yeah, no, it's like there's a news
story. Go to Google and type in Thailand motorcycle crash healthcare insurance or something like that.
Yeah, healthcare insurance, and it's just there's a news story practically every week. Honestly, I mean, it sounds a little bit corny, but if just one person takes our advice and there's like one less horrible accident, then it's worth it.
Yeah, totally. And we say this coming up to Songkran, often known as the 7 deadly days of Thailand's roads. They're extremely road fatalities go up through the roof because everyone's traveling, everyone's driving, everyone's partying. So
and every motorbike guy is drunk. So I mean, especially literally when this show is going to drop is the most dangerous time to get on a motorbike in Thailand.
Yeah, so stay safe out there over Songkran, everyone. We hope you have fun. We're going to have fun. But keep this in mind. Tell your friends if you're coming to Thailand. And, stay safe.
For sure.
All right. So one of the new segments we want to try in this new season is something we call Would You Rather, where one of us picks 2 contrasting situations tied to Thailand to debate and choose which one we'd prefer. So, Ed, this week, it's over to you.
All right. I got a question for you here.
All right.
So obviously, beaches exist all around the world. Would you agree?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Okay. But one thing that I learned living in Thailand is that the Thai beach experience is not the same as the Western beach experience. Just what people do when they go to the beach.
It's not the same as a Canadian beach experience.
It's not the same. So that's my question to you. And we can explain to our listeners what we mean. But do you prefer kind of the Western beach experience, the normal stuff you do when you go to the beach back home? Or do you prefer going Thai-style beach experience? And why don't you explain to our listeners what I mean by that? Because I know you know what I mean.
So I think you mean sort of something like, when you go to the beach in Canada, at least when it's, above 20 degrees and you don't have to put on a wetsuit to go diving, you go there to usually get exercise. You throw frisbees, you run around, you swim, play ball, walk the dog.
It's a very outdoorsy kind of physical experience.
Right. But I think what you're alluding to is that in Thailand, when you go there, you get your beach chair, you got an umbrella, and you park your ass down, and then you wait for the 10,000 vendors to come by serving you fried shrimp and henna tattoos and
that's right,
beach toys.
Yeah, that's right. But basically, the Thai beach experience is like a 6-hour meal underneath, an awning or a tent. That's basically what it is.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So you're saying which one would I prefer?
Yeah. Now, you could probably guess what I think, but I will say this: that when I first went to a Thai beach with Thai people, I was kind of shocked. I'm like, wait a minute, like we're not gonna go swimming, or we're not gonna go actually walk out onto the sand. So I did initially not like it, but over the years, I do kind of get it now. Like I kind of understand it and I enjoy it more. I know what to expect. So I'm not as down on it as you might think. But what's your take? Like I'm sure over the years, like you've gotten used to that. There's damn good food on Thai beaches.
Yeah. Well, I think you can go swimming. You just have to wait until the sun dips down almost to the horizon. Then you have to wear your T-shirt.
Right.
Then you can go into the water. This is interesting because I always joke that Canadian beaches are barely more than expanses of small pebbles covered with kelp and seaweed. So freezing seawater and killer whales out there waiting to eat you. So Canadian beaches are not great. Sometimes you can get a hot day in the summer and they're nice, but this is an interesting one because you do go to the beach, throw the frisbee around, you play ball, badminton, whatever. It's a very outdoor focused day.
I feel like I think of the beach as there's certain things that we do. For one thing, you're right. I think it's a physical thing. We tend to play beach volleyball, or like you said, maybe badminton, or throw the football around. We do tend to swim. I guess we also suntan, which mostly is not a Thai thing. Although some Thai people do it, but like they don't tan, they don't play games. Maybe I guess the only other thing I associated with the beach is like at night the campfire guitar thing, which I guess Thai people do that at night. They do hang around, like if you go to the beach in Thailand and you're in a place like where people there at night, Thai people do like to hang around and sometimes like bring a guitar out. So there might be some overlap there.
Yeah, everyone loves the guy who comes to a party with a guitar in his hand. Anyway, I would say the Thai one because I get all the good things about a Thai beach, which is the food and the sitting around and the relaxing. But if I want to, I can also do the things that I love about Canadian beaches, which is getting out and throwing a frisbee or swimming hard or something. I mean, Thai people might look at me like I'm crazy. Look at that bald guy out in the sun. What's he doing? Is he insane? But I don't care.
Right.
I don't care what they think. So I can still do both things. So I would say definitely the Thai there.
I get your point. Like I said, I've kind of come around to the Thai beach experience. Like I just think about it as it's really just a day of eating. Like that's what it is. It's just like you just laze around, in a beach chair and eat good food and chat and maybe drink. Like that's really what it is.
Yeah.
But I just miss the Western beach experience. Like I like playing beach volleyball and I like swimming, and I know you're right. I could do that here, and some people do it. There's tourists and weird white people like actually going out into the sun. You're right. It's possible. But it's so funny. It's just, and listeners, if you've never experienced this, you might be surprised. Or I'll just tell you this: if you're a tourist or kind of a newbie, the next time you go to the beach, just notice that 95% of the people who are actually in the sun are white people or Westerners. Like there's not a lot of Thai people like out swimming or suntanning.
Right.
They're all back 20, 30 meters. They're all under beach chairs and they're out of the sun for sure.
Right.
And mostly they're eating. Like that's really what going to the beach means to Thai people. Eating.
I guess I never heard the old axiom when we were growing up. Don't go swimming 1 hour after you eat.
Yeah, that's right. Like their axiom is don't go swimming.
That's right. Until the sun goes down, then it's fine.
That's right. True that. Yeah, so I'm going to have to go Western, but it is more nostalgic for my youth.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
I do now. I've adjusted. I do enjoy the Thai beach experience.
Love it. I love it. Yeah, good one.
All right. A final thanks to our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a ton of cool perks and the warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that they're helping in our never-ending quest for cool content. Find out more by clicking support on our website. And connect with us online. We're Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners and always reply to our messages.
Yeah, baby. You can also listen to each episode on YouTube. You can send us a voicemail through our website that we'll feature on the show. I dumped Twitter, but you can now find me on Mastodon at bkkgreg at home.social. So thanks for listening, everyone. Have a safe Songkran and an enjoyable Songkran. And we'll see you back here next week.
Stay safe, people.